Hi everyone, welcome to Chinese Tech Away. I'm Neil.
And I'm Jez.
And today we're going to be talking about the Surface Duo. So Jez, what's the news on the latest Surface Duo?
Well, 9 months ago, Microsoft announced they're returning to the phone market. And they're returning to it in a big way. They've basically come in and thought, with the kind of new trend of foldable phones, they're going to come out with their own foldable phone, which is the Surface Duo. It's basically a very, very thin phone with two screens and a 360 degree hinge, which basically means you can fold it all the way backwards.
Fantastic. And I have a few thoughts of this, but what are your thoughts? Do you think this is a good or a bad thing?
I think that it's going to be, we're talking about the first attempt. I think it's going to be a very, very good device as it brings something new to the table. And the way that it's approaching things is much more different than the other foldable devices, where they're focusing it on two screens rather than one foldable screen.
Right. So when you say it's something new, is it really something new, or are we seeing an iteration, a minor iteration of that, of something that has been coming out with the Mate X or the Samsung Fold?
So what Microsoft has been doing is been working a lot with Android, and the hardware is only as good as the software that it comes with. So what they're focusing on is it being a pure productivity machine when it comes to basically either, you're doing your chat services mixed with your emails. And they're focusing it being seamlessly working with multiple applications, which the other phones haven't really tried to do too much. So the idea that, it's like when we go to a computer, you have a single computer monitor or a large computer monitor or two computer monitors. People find that working with two computer monitors is much more productive than having either one big computer monitor or just one computer monitor.
Right. So I guess they are aiming this towards the multitasking market. I would definitely have my reservations on that side. I think where I take issue is that when you have a phone device, it's already very small. And when you're cramming in a screen, which is 8 inches, I think, and when the Duo is fully open, and then you cut it down to roughly 2 5.5-inch screens, it becomes very small. And this size of 5.5 inches is smaller than any Samsung device, even the 10e that came out, which was touted as the smallest Samsung. So when you're doing this, you risk being not very good at doing anything on these two devices, on these two screens, I would have thought.
Yes. However, you have to look at it when you're fully open to it. And the screen isn't, I think, as small as you think it is. It's still a relatively large screen. The bezels they're there. However, I think a lot of people are going to be put off by the line in the middle, which is the kind of where the hinge is. But to me, if it's a mindset for me where I'm not using this for one big screen, I'm using it for two big screens, and the 360 hinge means that it's very easy to hold on to because you're going to be holding on to it like a notebook. And my idea of using this phone would be if I'm on my sofa, I'm chatting to friends on my WhatsApp on one side, or while watching YouTube on the other side, or maybe reading a newspaper article or going through my Instagram on one side. You could even switch it over. Instead of doing like a notebook style, you could switch it 90 degrees and scroll it up and down for an even larger surface. And you're talking about the size, it becomes much larger when you switch it sideways as well.
Yeah, but I mean, it becomes larger, and I guess when you fully open it up, you do have this issue of the hinge in the middle blocking anything. So you wouldn't watch any YouTube content full screen. Maybe on Instagram, as you said, you're reading anyway through the line breaks, so it doesn't really matter as you scroll through. But you can buy a Samsung Ultra or a Note Ultra and you're basically at nearly 7 inches in size. So you're losing 1 inch. And there it's a very beautiful, seamless, high refresh rate experience, as well as you're going through the app that you're using. And I just think, you're better off focusing on one app at a time with full concentration, seen beautifully in 7 inches, rather than trying to bounce between two. I mean, even on my Android device, I have the 3 buttons on the bottom, the home screen, the back button, and then on the left, it's it pulls up the app drawer. I double click that and it can go back and forth like an alt tab on a PC. So I feel it already very easy to go back and forth between 2 apps. And I don't see how here, there's a very few number of scenarios that I can foresee that you'd actually really need to have these 2 screens.
Well,
but you're giving up so much.
That's true. The thing is, like, I think you and me, I think we're power consumers. I feel that, for instance, when I'm sitting down, it is a pain point for me when I'm consuming media and I have to switch in between my Facebooks, my Instagrams, my WhatsApps. And I just think that with 2 screens, you're able to even focus on which, like, my left screen. Okay, my left screen is for all my chats. I'll check my emails. And the thing is, Microsoft has worked heavily with Android to make this a seamless experience. So, for instance, when it comes to, I always like to call it a productivity powerhouse, because you look at the way that it deals with either Excel or Word or even Microsoft Office or Microsoft Teams, the way that you're able to even seamlessly integrate. For instance, if I have my Surface Pen, someone is talking to me in a meeting on Teams on one screen, on the other side, I'm just writing notes. It's options like that gives this device so many more options than you would a normal phone.
Yeah, but I mean, you go into that, you open Excel on one side, Office on the other. You're not going to be able to easily put in formulas or anything into your Excel with this device, because you'll have your 2 different screens, and then if you want to input something, you have to pull up your keyboard, which will take up half the screen, which basically negates the whole point of having 2 screens. And then you're then, if you want to look at Word, you want to put in any information. Yes, you said you got the pen. That's one way to do it, but it's a lot more clunkier than getting out your computer or your laptop to do this properly and sit down. And on top of that, if you're doing Teams, then you have you need to have the video function coming up in the camera. And the way that that's orientated, again, will restrict you on how you have to sit up the device so it's facing you. So again, you can't really write on it when you're on Teams. So as much as they're touting all these abilities to do multitasking, which you can show in a very nice commercial video and advertising that it can do all these things, I think in reality, when you look at it, the actual implementation of this is going to be pretty piss poor. And I don't think it's really going to, you'll get very frustrated, and very quickly you're going to be like, okay, I need to do this properly. I'm going to go to my laptop and do this properly. I'm going to go into my desktop and do this properly. And there's just not that many people on the go all the time that don't have that option to go to their PC or their laptop, especially as this is marketed towards those people who are meant to be power users, as you said. So I really struggle with this. Maybe that in time there will be space for this 2 screen market. But my feeling towards it is that at this point in time, we just haven't conquered the way that you interact and input data or interact with these 2 screens. And maybe where there is a case for this in the future is when you have, for example, you interact with 2 different. One sec. I think my daughter's outside knocking on the door. I think what probably does, where I was saying is, where you can have 2 screens and it can work well is where you can communicate with the device and input data into the device. Traditionally, it's been with the keyboard, and I just see that as clunky. So where I see critically this type of technology happening with 2 monitors working is when you can finally input your data into the device in the most effective way. And really, I see that through voice. And Google is making huge advancements. But if you could have the screen and go, hey, Google, open this screen up. Hey, Google, tell me what this is. And you're just interacting and talking to it, and it's pulling up the data and it's showing it all to you in real time. And then if you're recording something, maybe, I don't know, then voice, you can't do it because someone else is talking, or maybe you can have their voice automatically translate into some form of text. But there needs to be a way where you can input into these, where at the moment you're really limited by just being able to click where you're going. And as soon as you open up that keyboard, I think it just destroys the entire experience.
I think you're not giving how far, a touch keyboard has come, because if you look at how they've implemented the keyboard system, so it's meant to be able to use the keyboard with one, like when you're texting, quite a lot of people text with one hand, some people text with two hands, some people can turn the phone itself, and you can get a very big keyboard for like a kind of a one screen that's just full keyboard, and the other top bit being just the one screen, which that means it's even more, you can make it into, as you say, if you want to go to a computer or to a laptop for a full-on keyboard, you can do that by switching it over to one big keyboard on the bottom screen, which is better than a single screen mobile phone, because you still have the real estate on the top screen to see what you want to do, and the bottom screen to actually be a normal keyboard with all the functions.
I mean, if you had for a like-for-like phone, if you had an 8-inch phone and you had two of these screens, you'd do better on the 8-inch phone. You'd have more space for the keyboard because you wouldn't have this break. And also the way the form factors are for 8-inch phones is they're generally thinner and taller, so you can fit that keyboard in a smaller area. So it's not a fair comparison, I think, what you're saying.
I mean, you have to look for where it's come from and where it's going to. And for me, I think that with foldable phone technology, it's coming. It was a trend last year, but it is going to come sooner or later. And you either get on board and basically use it and then try to improve it upon for the next generation, or you still use a single screen monitor phone, which I think we're probably getting it to the kind of the apex of of what it can do. We have high refresh rate phones, screens, and what else? There's also, it's made of Gorilla Glass, so it's hardy. It's got 3D touch, and what else can it do now?
I agree. You can't do much more to it, but it's sort of like looking at televisions. You have a nice flat screen that goes against your wall, and that works great. They tried to come up with something new, so they curved it, and the adoption rate of that was terrible. And I think really what we're looking at here with these two screen devices is like a curved TV. Everyone's going back to flat because it doesn't work, because you've got people looking at different angles that are curved, so it just doesn't work. And it's the same with this. The way that we currently interact with a phone and the way that we input through a keyboard just eats up the real estate of the screen size. So I just never see this. And I think this will be something that will come. Yes, they'll improve upon it and it'll get better. But in terms of wide market adaptation, or adoption rather, wide market adoption, you're only going to see, single digit percentages. This is not going to be mainstream. You're still far better, in my opinion, having a bigger screen display and flicking in between the two. Because 95% of the time you're using your phone, you don't need that multitasking function, but you're giving it all up with this phone because you only got two halves and one screen is effectively dead. And not to mention you have the hassle of pulling out and maybe having to open it each time, or maybe you leave it open, but then it can crack easier. And then, the camera, then you're switching which one is it. It just becomes, to me, not worth it at all. Yeah. So yay or nay for the Duo?
For me, it's a yay. I think that if I didn't have my new phone, I would have gotten this phone, actually.
Yeah. Wow. Well, I'm definitely not going to be tech awaying this Duo.
Right. Well, what do you think, guys? Yay or nay on the Microsoft Duo?
And let us know what you think of the use cases for multitasking on this and if you'll really use it. Be very interested to know.
Anyway, thanks, guys, for tuning in. We'll see you next time. Bye, guys.
Bye, guys. Take care.